There was a man named Ronald Reed. He worked as a gas station attendant for most of his life. He drove a used car. He patched his own coat with safety pins so he wouldn't have to buy a new one. His neighbors thought he was just a quiet, simple man who never amounted to much. When Ronald Reed died in 2014 at the age of 92, people expected a modest funeral and a simple will. What they got instead left the entire town speechless. Ronald Reed had quietly accumulated over $8 million. He left $6 million of it to his local library and hospital. Nobody saw it coming. Not his colleagues, not his neighbors, not even his own family. Now think about this. At the same time Ronald Reed was clipping coupons, there were people earning 10 times his salary who died in debt. Executives, professionals, people with impressive titles and expensive lifestyles, broke. So what did Ronald Reed know that they didn't? That is exactly what this video is about. Most people believe that to become wealthy you need a high income, a lucky break, or some special secret that only a few people know. But the truth is more uncomfortable than that. The gap between the richest and the poorest person in your circle has very little to do with how much they earn. It has almost everything to do with decisions most people never stop to examine. And by the end of this video, you are going to understand those decisions in a way that most people never will. Let's start with the first idea, and it is one that almost nobody talks about honestly. The people around you are your biggest financial influence, not your boss, not the economy, the people around you. There's a study that has been repeated in different forms across decades of behavioral research, and it consistently shows the same thing. People adjust their spending to match their social circle, even when it means going into debt to do so. You buy the car because your friend bought a car. You upgrade your phone because everyone else has already upgraded. You go on the vacation because you do not want to feel left out. This is not weakness. This is human nature. We are wired to belong. But belonging has a price, and most people pay that price without ever reading the bill. Here is what makes Ronald Reed different. He simply stopped caring about looking wealthy. He cared about being wealthy. And that distinction, the gap between looking rich and being rich, is wider than most people will ever admit. But that is only part of the story. Because there is a second idea that is even more powerful. It is not just about what you spend, it is about what you do with what is left. Warren Buffett did not become the world's most celebrated investor because he was the smartest person in the room. There were mathematicians and professors and analysts who were smarter by every traditional measure. What Buffett had was patience. He started investing seriously at 11 years old. But here is the number that most people miss. Almost all of his wealth, over 90% of it, was accumulated after his 60th birthday. He was not a genius. He was a patient genius. And patience without a plan is just waiting. But patience with compounding, that is something else entirely. Compounding is not complicated. You earn a return on your money, then you earn a return on that return. And then on that return, and slowly, quietly, without drama or headlines, your money starts doing the heavy lifting. The problem is that compounding requires time, and time requires you to start before you feel ready. Most people wait until they have enough, and by the time they feel they have enough, they have lost the one thing compounding needs most: years. The richest person in your circle probably did not make one big dramatic move. They made 100 quiet, boring, consistent decisions over a long period of time, and everyone else was too busy looking for the shortcut to notice. Now here is where things get interesting. The third idea is one that wealthy people almost never talk about publicly. It is the idea of risk, but not in the way most people understand it. Most people think avoiding risk means staying safe. Keeping money in a savings account, never investing, never starting the business, always waiting for the right moment. But here is the painful irony. For most people, the safest thing they can do is actually the riskiest. Because while they are sitting still, inflation is moving. The cost of everything goes up. the purchasing power of their money goes down, and in 20 years their safe savings have lost a significant portion of their real value. The wealthy person in your circle understands something about risk that most people do not. And they do not ask, "Is this risky?" They ask, "What is the cost of not doing this?" Those are very different questions, and they lead to very different lives. There is also a fourth idea, and it is perhaps the most human of all. The people who build real wealth almost always have a deep reason that has nothing to do with money itself. A mother who grew up watching her family struggle and promised herself her children would never feel that fear. A man who watched his father work himself to exhaustion for a company that let him go without a second thought and decided he would build something no one could take away. A woman who wanted the freedom to choose her own hours, her own projects, her own life, and understood that money was not the goal, but it was the tool. Money without meaning is just numbers. But when money is connected to something real, to freedom, to peace, to the people you love, it becomes fuel. And people with fuel go further than people who are simply chasing the idea of being rich. Ronald Reed did not patch his coat because he was miserable. He patched it because he had a vision of something that mattered more to him than a new coat. When he died, he gave millions to a library and a hospital in his town. The coat never mattered. What he was building always did. Here is the one idea to carry with you from this video. Wealth is not about income. It is not about luck. It is not even entirely about discipline, though discipline matters. Wealth is about the relationship between your present self and your future self. Every decision you make today is a vote for the person you are becoming. The richest person in your circle is not someone with a special gift. They are someone who took their future self seriously, even when nobody else was watching. Start there. If this video gave you something to think about, leave a like. It helps more people find this content. Subscribe so you do not miss the next one, and drop a comment below telling me which idea hit you the hardest. Was it compounding, the cost of doing nothing, or the story of Ronald Reed? I read every single one,